What's up guys, Onmaths here, and we're looking at angles today. Now, for the first question, we've had to delve into the practice papers for OCR because there wasn't any decent ones from their released papers. And this is quite a nice, easy one to get us started, and it's all about parallel lines. And it's asked us to work out angle EBC. Now, EBC is actually the angle at B, and you can just imagine going from E to B and then to C, and it's the angle you draw there. So we're looking for this angle here. Now this angle and the 110 here are both on parallel lines, and they create co-interior or allied angles. And the thing with co-interior or allied angles is, and let's just draw it out and just make it a bit clearer so we know what we're talking about. So whenever you have a set of parallel lines like that, and you have the two angles inside, these are the parallel lines here, those will always add to 180. So all we need to do is 180 take away 110, which equals 70. So the missing angle here is 70 degrees. Now you're normally going to have to write a reason. You don't in this question because it doesn't ask you for one, but even if it doesn't ask you for one, always write the reason, and you can write allied or co-interior, whatever you want. Just always write it, and that's my rule for these questions, is even if it doesn't ask. I have seen some questions before where it doesn't explicitly ask you to show your reasons, but there are marks available to show your reasons. The next one is slightly harder, ADE. So we go from A to D to E, and it's this angle here. And we can't work it out absolutely directly. But one that we can work out is this one. We can work this one out quite easily. And this is angle EDC. And it's because this one and this one are also allied. So we just need to do 180 take away 95. So we take away the 80, take away the 15, it's not 100 and anything, it's 85. So this angle here is 85 degrees. Now, with this question, because the trapezium has equal sides here, it actually means that the whole trapezium is completely symmetrical down the middle. That's not quite the middle, but down the middle is completely symmetrical. So this angle here, the 110, and this whole angle here are going to be equal because it's completely symmetrical. So all we need to do to work out what ADE is, so ADE, is we just need to do 110 take away 85, which is going to be 25 degrees. So my answer is 25. Oops. My answer is 25 degrees. So I should rewrite right reasons. So this one is because of allied. And there really isn't a reason I can write for the next one, apart from the fact that it's going to be the same as DCB. So I could write here ADE equals, is it ADE? No, ADC. Ooh, let's go back. So ADC equals DCB. And just show the examiner that I know that those two angles are equal. Now there are different ways of doing this. Like you could answer this question by working this one out and working your way through the triangle. So you can work these two out and then take it away from 180, and that's absolutely fine. As I said, there's loads of different ways of doing it, but for me this seems the simplest. Okay, moving on to Edexcel's offering. Now Edexcel does actually specify that it desperately needs you to give a reason for each stage of your working, which is the norm for these types of questions because they want you to understand why it is you're doing stuff. And just a brief summary of what we need to do to find out what x is. What we need to do is find out what this angle and this angle are, and then we can take it away from 180 to find out what x is, because the angle's in a triangle. So our target is to find those two angles, and I'm going to start off by finding this angle here. So the angle I'm looking for is EBC, and it's going to equal 110 because it's going to be equal to this one, and they make alternate angles. So alternate. Okay, and you normally write alternate angles are equal or something like that. Okay, so that's going to be 110. So therefore, to work out what this angle here is, which is what EBG, so EBG, we're going to take 35 away from 110. 110 take away 35. Which is 75 degrees. And we don't need to give a reason for that because we're just taking away the angles. There's no kind of rules we're using for that one. You could write down that EBG equals EBC take away GBC if you wanted to, but I don't know. I don't think there would be any credit for that. Okay, so we've got one of the angles that we're looking for. The next one we need to find is this one here. And I can see a few ways of doing it. Probably the easiest is angles on a straight line. So if you understand, let's choose a different colour, like all of these angles here will add up to 180, and we know two of them. We know the 110 and we know the 25, so we just take them away. So where are we? Angle BEG equals 180 take away 110 plus 25, which is 45 degrees. So we've got this is 45 degrees. We should write these in so we can keep track. 75 degrees there. And so to finish off, to find out what x is, so we can just write x this time. X equals, and it would be 180 take away then the 45 plus the 75, which equals 60 degrees. Now it's really important we write a reason here, because there is a reason. So it's angles on straight line add to 180 degrees. Now normally, especially with Edexcel, they give you the marks for this type of question. They give you the marks for one parallel line thing, like alternate, allied current area, or corresponding, and they give you a mark for something that's not related to parallel lines. So just make sure that if at all possible, that you have one of each. And how many marks are there for this? So 4 marks, and probably for the actual answer you might get maybe 2 or 3 marks, but 1 or 2 of the marks is definitely reserved for the correct reasons. Okay, so we made our way to AQA's offering, which actually these diagrams sometimes look a lot more complicated than they need to. There's probably a line on here we just don't need, which you'll see at the end. And there's quite a few different ways of answering this question. I can think of 3 off the top of my head. I'm going to try and pick the easiest way, because we like the easiest way. Now again, this question doesn't explicitly to ask you for your working out or your reasoning, such as the OCR one didn't, but I would always write it anyway, because you're never 100% sure. And if you're, before you do your exams and you're practicing and you're revising, it's always best to revise and practice with the worst case scenario question where there's loads of marks for your reasoning. Okay, so first thing to notice is we've got a beautiful isosceles here, and whenever you've got an isosceles, there's always very nice easy things we can do, because you only need to know one angle in isosceles and you can always work out the other 2, and we'll go through that now. So first thing we're going to work out is angle BAP And it's quite easy to work out because it's just 51 degrees. Because the bottom two angles in an isosceles, and when I say the bottom two, I always imagine isosceles looking like that. So it's always the bottom two, this one and this one. Bottom two angles in isosceles are equal. Now, for the reason, you only need to write isosceles because, they get the point. It's an isosceles triangle, that's why that's 51 degrees. Okay, for the next step, we can actually work out this one, and that's what angle ABP. Because we just do 180, take away 51 times 2, which equals 78. So we know this one here is going to be 78 degrees. Now it might look like I haven't really gone anywhere close to answering the question, because 78 degrees is all the way at the bottom left, and the bit we're trying to find is all the way at the bottom right. However, it says that this is a parallelogram at the top there. And what we know about a parallelogram is all sides in a parallelogram are part of a pair of parallel sides. So these two here and these two here. So what that means is that we've got, now I'll just draw it in to be really clear. We've got this bit here that we're interested in, because it makes the 78 degrees on the left hand side and the x plus 3x on the right hand side co-interior angles or allied angles. So if you imagine, hit my pen, if you imagine this is just 4x, if I can draw an x not like a 5. So this is just the whole thing is 4x. This is the line here we don't need, we're just going to ignore it. Don't need that to answer the question. So we can work out that 4x, and again I could write angle DCB, but it's actually labelled as 4x, so I'm going to stick with that. So 4x equals 180 take away 78. Remember the allied, so we'll write down allied. Allied angles add up to 180, they're not equal. Okay, for instance, on the left-hand side, you can see that's acute, and on the right-hand side, you can see that's obtuse. So 4x is obtuse, 78 degrees is less than 90, so it's acute. So they can't be the same, right? You're just using common sense. So 180 take away 78 is going to be 102. And then I get my famous tram lines in. Get that 4x in. Get tram lines in, because we're going to divide both sides by 4 to find out what x is. So x equals 25.5 or 25.5. So the answer is 25.5. And again, it's important to stress that there are a few different ways of working this out. Opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal, so you could have taken that approach, worked out this angle and got it equal to this angle, and that would be absolutely fine to do. That would work. And yeah, there's loads of different ways of working this out, but I think that the one I've chosen is probably the easiest, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. We do these videos every single weekday, Monday to Friday. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and keep up to date and getting ready for whatever maths qualification or exam you might be having in the future. Please check out our website onmaths.com for completely free advice, revision resources, exam preparation, anything you want. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.